I covered Jake E. Lee, Ozzy's uncredited ace, in a previous video, so that means by default there's someone else I very much need to talk about. Someone who played eerily similarly. Someone else who also existed in that weird in-between plane of underrated and everyone knows the riffs. Someone who at one point actually lived with Jake, quietly picked up some of his playing tricks, and allegedly inherited some of his gear. That's Warren DeMartini. He's best known as Ratt's lead guitarist, and namely, the guy responsible for writing some of the most iconic riffs of all time, Round and Round and Lay It Down. So, quickly back to that intro note, why are we talking about Jake E. Lee here again? He already got a video. Well, let me show you something cool. In case you're wondering, yes, Warren joined Ratt after Jake. Jake recommended him, let him crash at his place for a few months. Warren picked up the set list, as well as some of Jake's phrasing tricks, and applied them with his own twist. The trademark, again, was that cool stretched out chord approach with little in-between movements. We're gonna stay here until I get you to see it too. Those riffs are also built with those atypical chord progressions, riddled with these little microfills and double stops. What I'm really saying is that if I could go back in time, I would work very hard to get access to whatever drinking water was in that apartment they shared. There's also way more to Warren than just being a riff machine that could break out catchy choruses. Pop the hood on his playing, and what you'll find is a treasure trove of carefully composed solos. And back in '82 or '83, before tabs, before the YouTubes, before public internet was even a rumor, Warren actually sat down with George Lynch and walked him through all of Randy Rhoads' Ozzy-era parts, just to help George get his bearings for an Ozzy audition. That really says a lot about him and his playing. Warren would often hang out in just one or two scale boxes for a solo. Sounds simple, right? But here's the twist. He'd take what looked like a standard minor pentatonic, Dorian, natural minor, or whatever lick and throw in a curveball, a weirdly placed note, a bar with the ring finger, or an off-kilter pause, all things that made it kind of frustrating to replicate. Like when you first hear some blazing fast solo, you think, well, I should probably quit forever. But then you look closer and realize, okay, patterns. The note selection makes sense, it's just a matter of speed and coordination. With Warren, it's the inverse. You hear a Ratt solo and probably go, oh, that sounds cool and not too fast, it's glam metal, I can probably do that. But you cannot. Not without relearning years of ingrained fundamentals that you've jammed into your head and your hands.
It's on that one. Yeah, I got that. It's the notes in between are fucking with me.
Bottom line, it's the half-brother to Logic. His solos were awarded close listening and punished to lazy copying. To add, Warren was one of the few players to regularly utilize a glissando vibrato. While most players do the typical up-down bend for vibrato, glissando is a violin-like approach where you emphasize a left-right slide. Moving on to gear, there's a lot of hearsay out there about what Warren used, especially in the studio. But for the iconic Ratt out of the cellar sound, the most consistent setup you'll hear about is this. For rhythms, a Marshall JCM 800 2203 going into an orange 4x12 cab loaded with EV speakers. A really nice classic for the era, plus that twist with the orange. For solos, here's the best part. Not the Marshall. Not a modded head. Not a boutique amp. Nothing but a small 1x10 Fender Super Champ combo practice amp run through just one speaker of that same orange cab. That's like sitting at a Michelin star restaurant, but realizing deep down that you'd really prefer the grilled cheese made with the hotel iron earlier. But it worked, and sounded amazing. Then, when it came time to record Invasion of Your Privacy, Warren decided to do things the quote-unquote right way. He bought around 25 different amp heads and 20 plus cabs, let's call it an even 25, and then spent multiple days in the studio testing every single combination. And then, producer Beau Hill, perhaps loving the sound from the previous album, perhaps tired of the severe hearing damage, secretly swapped out one of the new ones with the exact original rig from Out of the Cellar. Warren plugged it in and said, "This is the one." I guess the real amp was the friends we made along the way, especially the friend that committed tone fraud for the greater good. Guitar time. Warren was deeply into tone woods, respected luthiers, and maintained a close working relationship with Charvel. From there, he had a line of signature Super Strats with some really cool custom graphics. And that snakeskin one, his original wasn't a print. It was an actual python skin he picked up in New Orleans and had applied to a blank body. PETA may be screaming, but so am I, because this is sick. If you want to talk pickups, he has his own signature, which is sort of like the sibling pickup to the JB. It's slightly tighter and is a bit more aggressive. Alright, let's break down one of Warren's best, the solo from Back for More. He starts out with one of those traditional fluid 80s licks. It's sort of ominous and is very George Lynch-esque. And check out that recording itself. Pretty raw and unpolished. You can sort of feel that it's a true take, and that's pretty consistent across a lot of his guitar stems. Next. Like mentioned before, a standard shape that he works into something fresh. Some unique syntax, string skip, and both holding and not holding for a while on certain notes in his own manner. And lastly, one of his trademark ascending pentatonic solo licks, bluesy and builds tension to whatever passage follows. Let's try it. So after Ratt's heyday, Warren stayed pretty quiet. A few reunions, a few side gigs, including some time with Dokken, Whitesnake, the supergroup Kings of Chaos, as well as some solo tracks. And since then, he's kept a low profile. Some jamming with Jake, a handful of interviews, signature Charvels, and just enough mystique to keep the faithful guessing. Because that's the thing, he was never the loudest guy in the room. Just the one you probably should have been paying attention to.